Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Entrepreneurship Development Series. My name is Estella Hilda Andaman, and I'm the coordinator for American Corner at Boba, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. So we are so excited to have you join us today through the Mobile Web Ghana YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so even before we start the session. And so this session is part of the American Spaces Strategic Programming supported by the U.S. Embassy Ghana in partnership with Mobile Web Ghana through American Corner Global. I know it's a mouthful, but yes. And so before we begin today, please kindly let us know where you are joining us from in the chat section, whether you are from Kumasi, Accra, outside Accra, Ghana, just drop it in the chat, but let's get interactive. And today's discussion would help us to understand how successful businesses study their competitors, identify opportunities in the market, and then develop strategies that help them grow and stay relevant. And so we encourage you to stay interactive. Also, do share this link with somebody in your circle that you know will need this information vitally. And so to our facilitator, he's in the person of Henry Dua. He is a research analyst at the Future List, where he contributes to building a strong global tech ecosystem by creating information and publishing insights on innovative startups. He is also the co-founder of Nurture Mentorship, an initiative focused on empowering young African leaders through mentorship, upskilling, and networking opportunities. So please join me. Welcome, Henry Dua. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stella. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to share, and always good to come back to Mobile Web Ghana. So I will share my screen and we take it from there. Yeah, so the topic for today is competitor analysis, how to study your competitors and also win more customers. And I would like to start with this blurry picture, but if anybody can share in the chat what this means or any idea when you see this, what really comes to mind, I will appreciate some interactions. What do you see? What can you say about this image? Anything that could be shared on this?
Let me just start with, I can see a lot of brands, different brands. Some I'm familiar with them, some I'm not. So I see a lot of logos of popular brands. Yeah.
Yeah, so all of them are brands of cars that we have. And yeah, I mean, I will say at the end of the day, everybody gets to make sales. And we have a lot of them on the market. And that's how the competition is. So as we get to know, you cannot really exist as the sole company in any market on earth. It just cannot be. You may be a monopoly, you may have superpower, but that cannot be. So as we can see over here, I mean, the history of cars attributed to Henry Ford and them, but at the end of the day, a lot of players like the Tesla, Bugatti, and they have all entered into the market and competing for everybody that has the money to buy a car. And so let me first give this anchor knowledge that for any entrepreneur to say, I have no competition, is a lie. It's a straight lie for any entrepreneur to be able to say that I have no competition. Then that means the market you are addressing is not just profitable enough or not worth pursuing. Take, for example, space race. Previously, before SpaceX came on board, it used to be something left for government because it was quite expensive. And then everything else was just left to government. But then SpaceX came in, they proved that it is easy to travel to space on a budget, make space travel really cheap and easy. And from them, we have Blue Origin and others that are also popping in. So even if you are the first person to really find some knowledge, whether it be patented or not, at the end of the day, people can just copy and you cannot really be the only person dominating the market. You can have a huge market share, but at the end of the day, you cannot say that there's no competition. When you make that statement as an entrepreneur that you don't have any competition, what you are literally trying to say is that you are the only person competing in that market, which is not just the case. So let's keep this in mind and never say it anywhere as an upcoming entrepreneur, even as an experienced entrepreneur. To make the statement that there's no competition is just a fallacy. So let's keep that in mind. Now, if there's competition everywhere, what really matters? What matters most is execution. Execution is what matters most. Being able to deliver on what you promise to your target audience is what matters. Ideas are everywhere, and I believe that we can see it all around us. We have, when you go to ride hailing, we have Bolt, we have Django, we have Uber, and others that even came onto the market that didn't really gain a profitable market share. So we had those ones like Taxify. I think a lot of car ride hailing platforms and companies, they started in Africa and they're equally in Ghana, but they couldn't survive the market. So execution is key for every entrepreneur because there's competition, and how fast you can reiterate, how fast you can really get to your target audience, satisfy their needs, and give them something good to always come back to you matters most as an entrepreneur. So let's keep this in mind. And now we know there's competition. There's the fact that execution is what matters most. But what is business competition really about? What is business competition really about? If anybody can share, what is business competition really about? What do business really compete for or compete about? Anybody to share something? What are businesses truly fighting for when it comes to market competition?
Okay, so I would say that most businesses are looking at, of course, you are in to gain profit. So you want to gain the attention of your customers as well as gain as much profit in the market. And I mean, those are the two things that came to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. To gain the profit, the market, and everything is truly, the profit will eventually come from the customers. Yes, so customers are you say customer is king, because whether it be an enterprise customer, business customer, because some business sense, it kind of deals with enterprise customers that is selling to business, and then also individual, what do you call it? Individual customers, like anybody that can just go on to buy, what do you call it? A Zoom subscription for their own personal needs. So customers at the end of the day are the people that will bring the money to make you for you to generate sales, and out of the sales you generate profit based on other business factors, because to achieve, you can make the numbers. So for instance, it may be surprising to some of you that Uber, despite being worth billions, is still struggling to make profit, right? To declare profit on their financial statements. So you can have huge sales, and making profits a different ballgame. But at the end of the day, the call center of whatever you are building is what you call the customers, the end users, or those that will eventually pay for your product. So the competition in every market, in various industries, really centers around getting more of the customers. When you talk about market share, basically how many customers do you have? If you have any business in an industry, if you have customers amounting to maybe 100 people, your market share relates to how much of the spending that all the 100 people are able to put onto the market you're able to get for your business. And so customers really capture the essence of business competition. And so when you talk about the competition in business, business competition refers to any alternative that customers can choose from or run to instead of your solution or product. So if you wake up today, you want to take a ride to any place, you can consider using Yango, you can consider using Bolt, you can consider using Uber. You will always surely find people that they will stick to just one product. They are just super loyal to that product. But it doesn't mean there are no competition. The fact that an individual, whether it be a company or a person, is so loyal to one brand, one solution, one product, it doesn't mean everybody else is also really into the business like that. You can have a good market share like 90%, but then at the end of the day, where is the 10% going is from the competition. And all things being equal, every business will love to have all the money coming into their business. And as some have said, the business of business is business, and that is to make money. So every businessman will want to get as much customers as they can, and also that would lead to generating sales and hopefully becoming profitable. So when you talk about the competition, as stated, competition in business is any alternative that people can relate to. And using the ride-hailing example, when you pick Uber, their direct competitors could be Bolt and then Django, but they have indirect competitors like the Trotro, the taxi. They are all indirect competitors to Uber and then Bolt, this ride-hailing platform. Because if maybe I'm by the roadside where I'm going, I believe an Uber will be more convenient. But if the waiting period is too long for me, I will just decide to maybe drop in or just hop into a Trusky and then go where I'm going. And so we have the direct competitors and indirect. And basically, when we talk of competition, other schools go deeper into substitute competitors and all, but the simplified example or explanation is that anybody or any alternate solution product that services that your customers can run to is considered a competition. So as we started earlier, we established the fact that for a business to say they do not have any competition is not acceptable. Then it means you have just not done your business, you have not just done your calculations right, or you have just not done your research right to come out with that bold claim. And I highlight on the future competition is that taking the space travel example, when SpaceX started, it would have just been them only. But then with time, how do you call it? People, different companies are also jumping onto this and then pushing for space travel to be more privatized, and it's no longer a thing for government. So when SpaceX was cracking the code using first principle, now they have cracked the code. Fortunately or unfortunately for them, they even made their solutions publicly available, and anybody has been able to tag on. There's no, when Uber started, it was the only thing that they were trying it, they were testing the market. When it became validated, both came on board, and when you go to different continents and countries, they have other local brands that are also dominating when it comes to ride-hailing markets. So let's keep this in mind. And competition will surely be there, but the best way to fight competition is first to know your customers. Because if you do not know the customers you are even going to compete for or about, then I think it doesn't make sense. So as the topic for today captures, how do you win more customers? Knowing your customers is a key part of every business. It's essential for you to know the people that you are dealing with. Who are they? What do they want? And here, when it comes to knowing your customers, some entrepreneurs think they are the customers, which is not true. So they tend to assume a lot that the customer may be this, the customer may be that. But then the actual customer, the one who pays, ends up becoming what we call the real customer or the end user, the payer for the product. So instead of, as an entrepreneur, sitting down to assume, it will be better you talk to your target audience. You start with 1, 2, 3 people, and then the more you talk to people, the more you get to know their pain points, the more it will inform the futures you are to build as an entrepreneur. That will solve the pain point they have, and at the end of the day, help you succeed on the market and gain a higher market share that will make your business profitable. So when it comes to knowing your customers, you have to ask some basic questions, but each question here could be expanded largely. You can ask yourself, and that is the first question. It's not even you have to. Who is my customer? As I mentioned, maybe this is not a customer discovery session, but you really want to know the least information possible. What is their agenda? Whatever thing possible that could be identified about your target audience or your target customer, those who will end up paying. you want to know that information. So what really matters to them? What is their call? Let me give an example. If you pick ride hailing, some people will mostly just order ride. There are some people, they weigh the options. It's either they will pick a taxi or a Trosky or just order a ride. But there are some too, no matter what, they will just always go with Trosky. So as a ride hailing company, you want to know what really matters to those who are booking for a ride. And for those who are not interested in booking for a ride, what is the issue? To some target possible or customers that could come onto your platform or your product, it could be that for the ride hailing, most people are just not tech savvy. They don't want to go through the stress of even waiting and all that anxiety that sometimes could surround ride hailing. They don't want that. So they will just go straight ahead to the station, stand by the roadside, and hopefully keep their fingers crossed to get a ride that will take them to where they want to be. But for you take mostly the young people, they just want things in a different way. And you, as an entrepreneur, you want to understand why they are coming to you. Then you understand clearly what your value proposition is. So when you talk about value proposition, what are you offering to the market? What are you offering to the market? And you will touch on that a bit in some upcoming slides. Then after getting to know your value proposition that can help you win some good share of the market, the next thing to ask yourself is, how can I amplify my value proposition? How do I move from 100 customers to 1,000 customers to 1,000,000 customers? How do I scale? How do I really get things going for my business? And that these are some of the questions you want to ask, because without you first understanding the market you want to serve, that is the customers, everything pertaining to them, you cannot really survive the competition. And we stated earlier, in doing all this, you don't sit in your own room and then just, assume or hypothesize stuff without doing research. And part of the research is not just Dex research, where you go and read what people have provided or published. You want to target the real people. Let's say you are on campus. You want to sell water to people in your hostel. You want to check, first of all, you are a student yourself, great. But then you want to know what will make somebody come to your room to buy instead of going to the shop close by or near the hostel. So you think of all this, like, is the structure of the building going to even allow you to win customers? So let's say you're on a hostel that is about 10-story building high. You're on the 5th floor. You will just bring the water to the 5th floor, and it will be easy. You are selling convenience. It could be the same price, or you can even add 1 cedi extra to how much they would have gone to buy from climbing downstairs and then carrying the water themselves. You can tell the people that, okay, just call me wherever you are, I will deliver the water to you. So these are some strategies you can put in place if you understand clearly who your customers are. Then in part of the customer journey, there are some business terms that when you get to know, it will be helpful. One of them is called pain. When you talk about pain, it simply refers to the frustrations, the problems, the difficulties, the things that truly angers people, your target audience, when it comes to whatever they are dealing with. And until you are solving real pain, you are not truly in business. Because until you are really providing a solution to a challenge that people really cry over, people are not really happy with, you are not in business. Then when you're able to identify and target this pain, you want to ask yourself, what could be the possible benefits that you can deliver for the pains you have identified? In that case, you are talking about value, positive results that you can deliver to your target audience or your customers based on the pain points you have identified. So Uber came about because people really don't want to the stress. Sometimes you stand by the roadside and you just be at the mercy of a car being available, which you cannot even track. And the benefit with this ride hailing platform is that at least you will get to know if vehicles are available or not. You get to know the estimated time that the driver will be arriving. So in a way, the benefit you get from it is that you are still paying, but you are getting convenience. The driver is coming to your house. instead of you going out to meet the driver. So you get convenience, benefits, and these are just an example. If you pick Airbnb, Airbnb started because people had empty rooms that they could rent as a source of generating other income. And sometimes the surprising thing is that people may not even know the pain point they have. It's not always that it will be clear. And that is why in your customer discovery journey, you have to pay attention to what is visible, what is not visible, what they openly speak about, and what they do not speak about. So we keep all this in mind. Then we talk about features. Features are what, as a company, your product will provide for people in the business. What will your business provide? The specific functions, the tools, the characteristics of your product that will bring the benefits you want, even as it solve the pain you have identified. And we talk about desired outcome, the final results. What do you want people to feel? What do you want people to really have in mind? Which is linked to what we call attributes, and we'll touch on it briefly. So this is what we call, knowing your business, knowing the customers in a way that will help you. Because if you don't know the pain points, if you don't know the benefit, then you will just be chasing what others are doing. Sometimes you can be targeting the same group. You can be delivering the same service and product. But if you understand the key pain points, if you have a clear understanding of what the benefits are, you can then design your product or service or solution with the necessary features that will address the pain points to deliver the benefit expected, achieving the desired outcome at the end of the day. So now that you have gotten to know your own customers as an entrepreneur, then it's time to study what competitors are doing, because for sure, you'll not be the only person interested in that market, interested in that industry, or existing in that industry. We have gone to ahead to establish that execution is key, but obviously you're not the only one to execute. OpenAI started as the first large language model, but over time you have had a lot of other large language model companies also coming up. So even if you start early, you execute fast, people can come later, but with the momentum and the speed that they will approach everything, it could be that they may overtake you. So it's essential for every business to know that you have competitors, and how you clearly identify, study them, provide mitigation measures against what they can do to either send you out of business or not is really key. The first point I think every business should do is to have a good understanding of their own business. You have to know your business in terms of strengths, that is advantage that your business is having over others. What gives you a competitive edge? You can be in the business for ride hailing, space travel, food, having restaurants. What will make someone come to your restaurant than to go to another place? And weakness is refers to the internal limitation, the gaps, areas where the business is struggling to adapt or meet some expectations. So as a business, you have to know your strength. What are you doing well? What do you do well? What can you do well? Then we have your weaknesses. It will be it will be a bigger lie for you to say that you don't have weaknesses as an organization. That would be a lie. Every organization surely will have some level of weakness. Sometimes it could be team dynamics affecting productivity, and equally your strength could be having maybe one experienced CEO who is not part of your team, has worked with A, B, and C company that everybody knows. And the moment you even mention that this person is on your team, you can get people to invest, you can get people to buy your product. It's a good thing. So if you check in marketing, most businesses will pay influencers, they will pay celebrities to market for them, because they know that if they're able to show this person is on my company's side, then they are going to have some advantage over others. Then we talk about opportunities. Opportunities are the trends, the gaps, market conditions that can provide some level of advantage for skill and growth. So opportunities may pop up once in a while, an organization, as an entrepreneur, you can also carefully assess the market to identify possible opportunities for your solution and for what you are building as a whole. Then equally, like there is opportunity, there's also threats. What could come from even within or external risk factors that can negatively impact what you are building, the solution you are providing as an organization. So for an organization, if you haven't done your own critical assessment to know where you stand in terms of your strength, what are you having better? What's your competitive advantage? Your weaknesses, possible limitation that spans from within. Opportunities, are there any windows opening from time to time due to economic conditions, change in government, whatever it could be, that will make you better off than others? And then we have the threat. Threat, sometimes, like when COVID came up, most businesses collapsed because they could not foresee that risk factor. Imagine you bought food stuff, and then as a restaurant, you have to just shut down because of lockdown. If it's perishable food that could not be frozen, then it's going to go bad. You have to now go and search for extra money to be able to procure more food stuff when lockdown was over. And that could be some good organizational resources going waste because of possible threats that affected the business in a negative way. So when you have gotten to know your business using whatever strategy possible, and having a deeper understanding of your product, as you have built up on knowing your customer and all, then you tackle the competition. When it comes to your competitors, you want to identify anything possible there is to know. And it's unfortunate some companies will even use illegal or unethical ways to know more about their competitors. Some companies can actually send an insider to be an employee for the company only to siphon information secret to what they are doing. So in as much as we are going to talk more on the positive light of a fair competition, as entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, you have to pay attention that some of your colleagues will be ruthless. They are willing and ready to use any opportunity at all to gain a bigger share of the market or bigger margin of customers. So when it comes to analyzing your competitors, you want to know their product or solution. What exactly are they offering to the market? How much are they pricing it? Who are their ideal target customers? Because sometimes you may think they are targeting A, B, and C, but to them, their focus is on a different market. We have all had instances where, as a company, you may design a product, develop a product or service intended for one purposes. By the time you realize that product is being used for something else, and some organization can tap into it and, okay, come to the realization, oh, I was targeting A, B, and C as my target audience, but I've realized that it's not going to work. I have to focus on a different set. So you have to be able to keep up with the trend of who their actual customers are. And you have to also put your ego aside and identify what the strength of that companies are. So what is the strength the company is truly having? And in as much as you focus on their weakness, you don't just have to say, oh, this company or these competitors are no threat. No. Give unbiased research into your competitor analysis. Identify their strength, identify their weaknesses, note them down, go deeper into it, and know where you can stand and make a difference. Then their marketing strategies. Are they on social media? How do they even get their people? And one good way you can do this, which I will share later, is when you try to also equally use the product or service of your competitors. It helps a lot when you do this. Then we have customer reviews. You can go online. If it's an app, check App Store, the iCloud, wherever they are hosting their software, to check what are reviews that customers are giving. Based on the reviews, you can get to know if we tweak our product in A or B approach, then we can win this customer, because obviously, if it's a negative review, the customer is having some level of frustration that your competitors are not solving rightly. So you can decide to solve it better. You have to know their distribution channel. How are they reaching out to their customers? What is the overall customer experience? Then you go deeper. Now we are in a technological world where most businesses are adapting to tech. And one good thing to do is to have a good understanding of their tech stack. Are they building, what are they building with? What are their futures? Are they having AI or they are not? Can you procure an AI chatbot for yours and it could be a better positioning for you? So understanding the core tech stack of your business and that of the competitors really helps. Then we have general brand positioning. You want to know how far does this brand reach? There are some brand, if you go beyond the country, they don't go beyond that country. Some brands are regional in terms of continent. You can find it on Africa, but you don't find it beyond Africa. So you have to know what is the reach in terms of brand. Do people know? So like when I started, we put up the logos of some of these cars. If you were to mention some of them, just the logo, even though it's quite blurred and all of them are in black and white, you can still mention that, okay, this is this car, this is this car. You want to push for that level of brand positioning where people clearly know your target audience customers have a good idea of who you are as a company, what you stand for. There's some good level of trust being built for you. Then, but after doing this, going deeper into all that we have shared, one good thing you want to also focus on is called attributes. Customers will always compare based on attributes. So what is attribute? And the example we have over here, let's say there's a couple of companies. One is providing a personalized dashboard. The personalized dashboard is a feature. That means I can customize it to my taste. The benefit is that it improves the user experience. And the attribution that the customers will give to it is the customization. The customers would believe that, okay, because I can personalize the dashboard, it gives me a better experience. And the attribute they give to it is that this company's product gives you higher level of customization. Let's take any other product that relies on internet. If the product relies on internet and has no offline synchronization, that means if I have information worked on with that internet, I'm in my village somewhere, can I do the work I have to do, capture all the data I have to, and the moment I'm connected to the internet, it gets to sync automatically. The future is offline synchronization. You work offline, it gets uploaded when you have internet access. The benefit is continued productivity without internet. I can work on whatever I am doing without access to internet. Then the attribute is reliability. I believe that I don't have to always get access to internet, and then before I can really check whatever I need to. Because if the solution is not having that feature, then it means whenever you want to work or deal with that solution, you only must always get internet access. A good level of this example is Notion. Notion started as cloud-based only. You only need internet access. And it was a good app people use. I personally use it, but they push for the future of offline synchronization that Notion had no option but to build that. And now Notion has that feature where you can save some information, some blocks offline, or you can even do your entire workspace offline, and it gets to sync whenever you get access to internet. And another feature to explain this attribute is that when you have predictive maintenance as part of a product or as part of a service, what you are trying to do is that there could be reduced downtime. Downtime simply refers to time that you are not doing anything productive as a business. And the attribution that the customers will assign is proactiveness, because I can get to know if maybe my fuel is going down, if my data is running low, if A, B, and C is running low, then I will take a proactive approach to then order or make plans to get whatever is needed done before the time even comes. And that is what we call attributes. So when it comes to targeting the competition, there are a couple of strategic and practical approaches that could be taken. There are a number of them. And for today, we are focusing on the Porter's 5 forces. Basically, these are 5 factors that each business will have to assess at a point. we have in the circle the overall rivalry that exists among the competition or the competitors or the industry. There's no industry that can say competition doesn't exist. So the first point of call is to accept that there's some level of competition, but this competition is affected by the other four factors. And the lower these factors exist, the better profitability will be in that industry. And the more there is, the lower profitability. So if you pick a new entry, for instance, if you're in an industry where it's easy for competitors to just come in, it's less profitable. Let's take mobile money, for instance. For those of us who were young, old enough to know when mobile money started, I think it started as space to space and few people were doing it. But the time came when you pass any corner, you will see a mobile money vendor or agent. Wherever you pass, you will see a mobile money vendor or agent. The entry requirement is low, the barrier is low. And so the industry doesn't become too profitable as it would have been previously. Take provision stores, for example. Anybody with a building with a container can just open one. So if you find yourself in such environment, you will need to carefully consider other factors like the suppliers, the buyer power, the substitution, and things that are not captured in the Porter's five forces like marketing, after sales services that can really set you apart. Then when you go to suppliers are basically people that will supply the goods and services within that industry. If you have more suppliers, then you are having an upper hand because then you can, as a business, you can switch between suppliers. One supplier is not dominating the market that they can share any outrageous prices. So if you have more suppliers in your industry, the better. And this benefits the business in a way, also benefit the customers. But here the business really enjoys when you have more suppliers. Then you go to substitutes as the name goes. How easy is it for people to switch? Because let's say, I mean, personally, I have Yango, I have Bolt, I have Uber on my phone. The goal is that at each point, I can just compare prices or which of them is coming fast, then I will choose that. So if it's easy for customers to switch, then it's not good for the market or for you, the company. But if it becomes difficult for them to switch to substitutes or find substitutes, then the market becomes profitable. Then we go to the last point, which is buyer power. Here, if you have more customers, more people in the industry, or more people chasing that goal, then everybody, even the competitors, will get to enjoy. But if you have less customers, then already the profitability is expected to be low because it's a few target customers that everybody will be trying to reach out to. And so as a business, you would then need to know how then can I, considering all these factors, survive the competition wherever I find myself. Remember, even if you are the only person starting a business idea, it just takes a matter of time and somebody replicates. I've heard of some twins I think they were born in Germany. The only thing they do is that they pick businesses that have succeeded in the US and they replicate it in Europe. That is what they do. So they think, oh, Amazon has been successful. Let's replicate it. And this is a real story. I've forgotten their name, but that's what they do. They replicate whatever is done elsewhere in their country and their region, and they are billionaires now. So as a business, for you to say that there are no competitors, it is a lie. Because right now, if Amazon is trying to expand to these countries where they have already established their foothold, they will be able to gain much more traction as compared to Amazon. If Amazon really want to succeed, they'll have to push so much into marketing, into surviving, and making it a profitable option as compared to what already exists. So we pay attention to this, and then we critically assess where we stand as a company. Mostly when it comes to competitor analysis, most entrepreneurs tend to favor their businesses more. It's not so not to downplay what your business is doing well, but the best is that you have a fair analysis and fair view of whatever your business is about and doing. And with that, you can really stand out in the market. So when it comes to why some businesses will succeed as others may fail, we have established competition is everywhere, but you will succeed if you're able to understand your customers deeply, if you're able to iterate quickly, if you think there's something that is new that has changed, how can I quickly adapt as an organization, as a company, and get things going? Yeah. So equally, you need to communicate your value, because if people do not know what you are doing, then if you check most phones right now, phones don't really talk about it, they communicate value. Okay, Samsung, why should I buy it? They have their loyal customers, they have their Apple has their loyal iPhone customers, but they still communicate value to be able to bring on board others. And it's not just communicating value, the value must really exist. But if the value exists and you don't communicate it, it amounts to nothing. Then also, as organizations, companies, entrepreneurs, you want to build trust. If you say you are going to deliver A, B, and C, you make sure you are putting every measure in place to be able to deliver on A, B, and C. And then, especially to new entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs start early. They want to, do so many things at a go, and it's not advisable. If you pick these ride-hailing platforms, Uber started as just focusing on ride-hailing, but now we have Uber Eats, we have other services that has been added up after they build and amass a stronger portion of the market share for themselves, and they added up. So to every entrepreneur, especially aspiring ones, ask yourself, what is that one thing I can do for my target audience, and build on that later. And execution, we have already established, it really matters. You have to execute fast, be willing to learn, get feedback, and it's a loop that until your business reach product market fit, which we'll talk about shortly, you don't quit. You always want to implement this, keep learning, even as an organization. Whilst you observe your competitors, you also focus on what you are building, because sometimes you can focus so much on the competition, you forget to really see what makes you unique in a way. So practical action steps that we can take when it comes to competitor assessment is, as I've mentioned earlier, you should read customer reviews. Using competitor product really helps a lot, because that one you get to see for yourself and you can testify, this is good. If it's a restaurant, let's say you have two restaurants that is like 300 meters apart, you can go and eat from the other restaurant, disguise yourself as a regular customer, eat there, and then ask yourself, what are they doing well that I'm not doing? What are they doing better that I'm not doing at my restaurant that will make people go to where they are? So let's pay attention to all this. You study the pricing pages. You go online, check their pricing. How have they priced? Is it lower? What is the difference between the various price tiers? And social media has comes to stay. It's a good way to also have a good analysis of your competitors. And it should also, it's worth noting that social media hype does not always translate into sales, but at least it lets you know where the brand stands and what can be done if you want to go head to head with such organization. You can also interview customers, search forums like Quora, Pinterest, on all these places where people gather to talk about product and something they may not be happy with. And then SEO content is really key. Monitoring the SEO, search engine optimization. How have they optimized their search engine such that if anybody goes online to search for maybe restaurants within that location, their name comes first. So you need to understand all these. There are tools available to do SEO search for your competitors, and then see what is making them pop up first. And you can also make tweaks to yours. You can join their webinars. You can have demo sessions with them. Of course, not revealing yourself as a competitor, but it may sound dubious, but it is what it is, that we all need to get a good understanding of what our customers are doing. And even to the point of analyzing their value proposition, their brand proposition statement. How are they selling themselves? What are they communicating that is making people even consider them as a competitor or as a substitute to what you are offering? So here are these practical steps you can take, and each of them will have its own workload, Some you could do in a day, some you can use a tool, some will require strategic thinking and a plan to really get the best feedback from it. Then everything that we are doing as a business, as I mentioned earlier, is to achieve product market fit. You achieve product market fit when your solution truly is solving real world problems better. So if you do not achieve product market fit, if what you intend your product to do is even used for something else. So how do you get to product market fit where the solution, the product you are offering is solving real problems for our customers? You start with a proof of concept especially for our young entrepreneurs or early entrepreneurs. You want to have a proof of concept, something simple you can show that is this going to be feasible or not. You start with the prototype. The easiest form, you can test and validate your assumption and ideas. Then you go to a minimum viable product. Minimum viable product, as the name goes, minimum, is the least of the actual thing you want to build, the actual service you want to offer, without spending so much time and effort and resources, but that can lead to proving out what you really want to do. And then after building your minimum viable product, you will build more, product versions, beta, release, and keep on updating. And I'm sure all of us, softwares that we use, even our phone, keeps on being updated. They may have achieved product market fit, but still product keeps being updated on the regular. And as a business, this is your goal. You want to achieve product market fit, where your customers will choose you, your solution, your product, your service, whatever it is you are doing, because they believe it solves a real pain point, a real problem, and it is doing it better than others on the market. Until you get to this level, you'll always be at the mercy of competition. But then regardless, even after achieving product market fit, there's always room for improvement because the world is constantly changing, and having a better understanding of this really helps as a company. So in conclusion, competition is part of businesses because it validates the market. If there's a market where there's no competition, then it means the problem is really hard. Let me take an example. Many people want to solve world hunger, right? In Ghana, it could be many people want to fight against corruption. But the more you try to look at it, try and fight, you realize that no, it's having tentacles. It's so complicated, intertwined that you literally can, you just have to leave it as it is in a way, or you just solve one single aspect. But wherever there's no competition, it means there's no market. That means that it's not profitable being there as a business or as an entrepreneur. And then you have to, whether you like it or not, your customers are always comparing. Even those who have the money readily available, they will get to a point, they may not compare on the basis of money. They will have the money to pay, but they will compare on the basis of after-sales services, on the basis of comfort, on the basis of convenience and other things. So businesses, you always have to listen to your customer to know what are they saying. They may be happy yesterday and tomorrow they may not be. So understanding the customers and observing what could be the potential factor that would make them switch to your rivals, your competition, is key. And again, just to re-anchor, you can only differentiate your business, your solution, your product from others by solving real problems. Sometimes you are just building features and it's not really doing anything better. But don't spend time to build any feature until you have validated that this is something that could be done and will lead to people having benefits more than they would have ordinarily have from other competitors or even from you as a company. And then also, you have to learn fast because the world is really changing. Some years ago, AI wasn't available. Now it's impacting various industries, companies, and everywhere. So the ability to learn, unlearn, relearn quickly as an organization will take you far ahead of the competition. And so this brings us to the end of our competitor and winning more customers webinar. And here are some resources that will be shared later for those who signed up that you can check up more and read into detail as means of having a better assessment of your competition and how you can truly stand out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Henry, for that insightful session. I mean, a lot of nuggets that I noted, and looking at our chat, I think maybe I'll start from the top. We have some people joining from Accra, someone joining all the way from Takoradi. So, yeah, but please keep your questions coming as well, and you can drop them in the chat box. We just have some few minutes. We can take like maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then we would end the session. But talking about competition, Henry, what can you say to a person who realizes that maybe you go online, you realize that somebody is picking your ideas, another company is literally picking everything you are doing and is doing the same thing? What would be the first line of action or point of action you as a business should do?
Can you come again with a question? So.
Yes, please. I was saying that talking about competition, you are a business entity and then you go online or you go somewhere, you realize that somebody is stealing your ideas or somebody is picking the very things you are doing and they're replicating the same thing. What do you do? What actions can you take at that time to still stand out and, get your profit margin as it has to be?
Yeah, so the first thing to do is that if your solution or what you are offering is patented, copyright protected, then you can, and you have enough proof that they are copying what you have registered legally, you can take legal action. But if it's something that obviously can come into the mind of anyone, then what you want to do is that you study them. What are they doing different or doing better?
Yeah.
Right? Everything that we have shared will come to play. It's online. What are people saying about them? What are they doing better? Then a good aspect, which mostly some people may not do, is that, let's say, if it's a product, try ordering the product, paying for it to see how the entire customer journey is. Then you can get to know, are they skipping some processes that I have added that is just being a headache and not really adding anything up? Is the price reasonable? If it's a product, when you finally get a product, you use it to see, is this product truly better? The feel, the durability of it, everything. Is it better? If it is better, in what way is it better? Then I can take it from there to also assess. And I think, in a way, China does better, like reverse engineering stuff. They'll get their hands on whatever it is, and then they'll reverse engineer it. So, yeah, unless something that is really patented and copyright protected, legal actions will be out. You will just have to battle the competition out. And as you mentioned earlier, constant reiteration, learning, feedback, and execution will make you sustain and survive on the market. But then once again, let me just mention it that sometimes some people may think they are in business, but the only thing they are doing is that they have a feature, right? So let's say, Glovo. Glovo used to be on the distribution markets, delivery markets in Ghana, but they exited, right? So I'm not saying Glovo is a feature, but even Glovo couldn't survive because there are a lot of delivery companies on the Ghanaian markets. And so people have a lot of options. You have to either cut your price. So when you assess and it's not profitable, then you just have to let it go. So as an entrepreneur, it's also good at a point, if you think the competition is too hard, to call it quit. Most people will tell you that, oh, don't quit. But now, if you think it's not really, and quitting doesn't mean you are stopping the business. You can sell it to even your competitors. And people do, it happens all the time where competitors will buy out the other company, either to kill it entirely or take their technology and add it to theirs. And by so doing, they'll be growing. It will surprise you that almost every week, Apple is acquiring a new startup, just that we don't hear it in the news. Yeah, so a lot of the features like Face ID, people develop it and then they'll acquire the company, they get the technology implemented into their iPhone. The same way, if you're not building something that really stands out as a product, one feature, if you have a big company, they can just update their features and then your product is gone. Yeah, so we have to think of all this when we are considering competition, when you come across competitors.
Interesting. I think I love all the points you've laid down. But in the sense of when how do I put this? The place of being unique in your field, like we are looking at other people. How do you maintain originality or uniqueness without saying, okay, I'm just copying what this other person is doing, and then this is what, how do you make sure that you still maintain that uniqueness that you have as a business without falling into the place of the trends and just being part of the oversaturated portion of the market?
Yeah, so I'll use the Apple iPhone example. Maybe Apple, they are worth trillion now, almost like 4 trillion or so. So they can do it. But then you could realize that it took a very long time for them to change from the Lightning charger they used to the USB Type-C. So sometimes, because people were really associated iPhone to the USB Lightning conductor, and they were forced by law to shift from that to the Type-C that anybody can use. And so even though they are still using Type-C, you could see that they have the feel of it. Some of them, they actually use, instead of normal plastic casing, they will use woven material on their charger. That will give a different feel. The overall design, the precision that goes into it makes it different. It may be to a smaller organization, it could be, I mean, if you go to any restaurant to eat fufu, fufu is fufu, but you can have some secret recipe that nobody knows if you do have like Coca-Cola Fine or how you serve. So there's a place I notice whenever I go there, the water you use to wash your hands is warm. And so after eating there for a while, when I go to a different place and the moment they give me cold water, my mind will be triggered that nah, I'm at the wrong place, or I'm not where I used to be. You know, it may be subtle, but you can find some unique things, even if all of you are doing the same thing, because eventually, I mean, if you pick a school is a school, you want to prepare children for BEC or for the future. What other things, you even if you are Montessori, you can have another one. If you are IS school, you still have a lot in the system. What will make you stand out? Sometimes it gets to maybe sticking to some original stuff you have, but it's not to be too rigid and hard. Even when you have to make some changes to the originality, you will still remain there. Yeah, there have been businesses like that. Craigslist, it's a list of it's like Facebook Marketplace and all, and their website looks very old, but it's worth more than $3 billion, and they are still maintaining, not selling. So yeah, all these things come to play, but you have to understand the market where you are. Understand that if your customers are still choosing you, then fine, you can maintain the originality. But if they are not choosing you, you better really pivot or make necessary changes.
Thank you so much. I think that the last question I would ask is the aspect of the ethical way of looking at your competitors. What is the no-go area and what is the go-to area?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything, I think there's this analogy of when you use a wrong way to know that somebody is doing something bad. Yeah. So I came across a video where one man went to vandalize a school washroom, and the person was called to the principal's office. So the question was, how did the principal know it was him? Because when he was doing it, nobody was there. Not knowing the principal has hidden cameras in the washroom. So they got to know what the principal was doing was bad, but then the approach itself towards bad. I mean, in a business context, it can go as far as you can, but then the boundary is basically anything that is not legally acceptable, you don't have to do. And I'm not a legal person. Maybe it can be battled out in the court, but I think, if it can have potential damage, and sometimes it's not even like legal per se, but as you said, ethics and morality. Like you don't need to intentionally badmouth. Sometimes people can buy or contract hackers to create bots that will give negative feedback on one's product. So the act is varied in this technological world we find ourselves in. So I think the plea would be that whatever that you will not wish it could be due to you as an entrepreneur, then you better not do, or it has the potential to land you into legal trouble that will either collapse the business, bring huge fines, compared to how much profit you'd have even gotten. You need to make sure you stay away from all that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Henry. We are so honored that you took time out of your busy schedules to just do this session for us. And we've learned a lot. Thank you so much once again. And then also to our participants for joining. Thank you for your engagement in the chat box. I think I see someone from Hull, everybody who joined from any place in the world. Thank you so much for joining. This program is proudly brought to you by Mobile Web Ghana and is supported by the U.S. Embassy Ghana. It's called American Spaces Support Program. We do this every Wednesday of every week to help you with your career opportunities as well as entrepreneurship ventures that you can venture into to improve your various lives. And so we'll just draw the curtains. I mean, this brings us to the end of today's session. Please subscribe if you have not as well. And you can also follow Henry on I'm sure Henry has a lot of socials on LinkedIn, right, Henry?
Yeah, LinkedIn will be preferred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LinkedIn is preferred. Yeah, so you can connect with Henry as well, via LinkedIn to know more about what he does and all that. So thank you once again for joining. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.